When I look at the Bigfoot circus and I see channels spouting complete crap on a daily basis, and there are very few that are at least appearing to try to lean generally in the direction of rational scientific thinking, the reality of the situation, and I look at how many subscribers these two different kinds of channels have, and, well, the market here is trying to tell you something.
Greetings, good citizens. Now let's get on with the prologue.
Many look with great suspicion at science and scientific thinking and tell all they have influence over how dangerous it is. Well, it's dangerous to them. Some actually try to use some of the words of science to lull those they influence back into the nonsense with, as Leon called it, scientifical language. In The Assassination of Science, I talked about how the Bigfoot world took science behind the barn and shot it in the head like anything else it doesn't understand and maybe is even just a little bit afraid of. I also spoke about the dramas that sweep across the circus from time to time, like the one that may have just reached a typically explosive and festering climax over the last few days. To learn is to change what you know, to change what you think, and to become someone other than who you are now. Sometimes a new idea confronts us with what we may perceive to be flaws that we resist addressing for various reasons. We naturally resent the people that are highlighting this sort of subject because we have a sense that they are exposing something about ourselves that we don't want others to know about. This is why I say that if you feel triggered by anything I say, you should examine why that might be for yourself. I do not target individuals for bad behavior. There are plenty of people who look upon me with great suspicion and distrust of the cognitive dissonance, the discomfort that often happens when learning new things, when I'm talking about something that makes something that they believe or want to believe seem like it might not actually be true. That makes them uncomfortable, and naturally, they don't like me because I'm making them uncomfortable. A couple of years ago, one Bigfooter decided to stop communicating with me. It was so effective that, well, actually it took 3 months before I even noticed. And he still won't tell me why he's not talking to me. Very effective communication there. And this guy runs a podcast on a big network. That's awesome! In the last few months, another became so outraged at me that he actually unfriended me. It affected me so deeply that, well, actually, I didn't notice until a couple days ago when I tried to send a message about, in fact, this subject. I just don't use social media that much. And honestly, you're free to think whatever you want to think, and if you want to get upset at me, that's your choice. In The Assassination of Science, I talked about these dramas and how it is the roles, the characters that are important, not the actors, which is why I do not tend to give the light of recognition to any of the creatures involved in them. That essay was about these denizens of the Bigfoot circus. I also said that I do give the light of recognition to those who are at least trying to lean in the direction of scientific thinking, trying to do better, to be objective, to be rational. Those who are trying to do the best with things that they don't always understand very well. I said these dramas are unimportant, and they are individually unimportant. Variations on a theme. Different productions of the same basic story. Unremarkable on their own, and this one is no different. So, as I described in The Assassination of Science, I will not name the players and attach this essay to a specific moment in time. There's a lot of that, and it really doesn't matter. I do have a few things to say about it, though, that are common to pretty much all of these dramas. I like to watch the sun set. There are some favorite places that I like this. One is the western shore of Key West. Pretty much any place in Yellowstone Park. Well, actually, really, anywhere in any mountains. Have you ever been in Golden Gate Park for the sunset? The first time we did, we arrived really just minutes before. We crossed the bridge with the sun just dancing over the Pacific, paid our toll, and turned out almost immediately to get to an overlook in hopes of getting a few pictures before it was over. The parking lot was crowded, and we had to park about as far from the overlook as you could in this lot. But we got there when the colors of the sunset were just about perfect. We ended up lingering a while because, well, the crowd thinned out pretty quickly after the sunset, and the parking lot was just a frenzy for quite some time. So we leaned on the railing and discussed our plans. We were just passing through on our way to the Simi Valley area, but we wouldn't leave the Bay Area until morning to drive down the coast, see it all in daylight. With our car on the far end of the parking lot, it was also far from people relatively quickly. And it was near to the cover and the shelter of the park's greenery. It was not terribly well lit, and as we started moving back towards the car, we eventually started to see things moving around it. A troop of raccoons had emerged from the trees and shrubs to scour over the trash that people leave. These raccoons, today, my metaphor for the small-minded collections of storytime Bigfoot channels that try to garner an audience they can influence. Raccoons are pretty creatures. They're really beautiful. They're extremely intelligent. They're super clever. And make no mistake, these are vicious and feral creatures. And on the edges of our cities, they're often crowded together, frequently diseased, and no doubt traumatized by people. As we get closer to our car, they grudgingly give way, hissing and spitting their rage at our audacity for interrupting their space and their routine. Doesn't that sound familiar? Anyone you know there? These are the people who see science as a real and visceral threat to their piece of the pie. These are the people who, metaphorically, took science out back of the barn and, well, put it out of their misery. They may look pretty and civilized, may even try to look like they are entertaining scientifical ideas because they see a market, they see a piece of the pie for them in that interest. They misuse and misrepresent scientifical approaches to the conundrum of the Bigfoot mystery. They try to look all genuine and gussied up like they're trying to be the real thing. And they're just another band of Golden Gate Park raccoons, feral and vicious and enraged and resentful. Have no doubts, just provoke them in the slightest way. But be sure to be up to date on your rabies vaccine if you try to do so. When you resort to personal invective in the prosecution of a dispute, you have lost. As is typical in these conflicts, all sides have managed to step down to personal invective, where no one ends up looking good from that. Once you step down to personal invective, the other side knows they've gotten under your skin, and they've won something at least. However, and also typical, there are those involved who have moved far beyond personal invective and stepped into what actually could be considered defamation, actual criminal behavior. This is not a matter of being ineloquent. This is a deliberate effort to make someone out to be so devoid of character as to be actually criminal and potentially dangerous personally. Using terms like misogynistic or similar terms, narcissist, and a few more, far more vile things, claiming that friends and spouses or children of someone have been harassed in a deliberate effort to make that person seem so offensive that no one wants to have anything to do with them. These accusations and others like them can all be found directly from the instructions of Hermann Wilhelm Göring for the influence and the indoctrination of populations. These accusations are used against those who pose a threat to the influence and control of those who seek to control a population to their own ends. To make these people who are threats to that influence seem so unsavory that no one would want to be thought to even approach them for any reason, to make those people seem like pariahs. Those listening to this today may think I'm speaking of some specific group, but actually, when I was saying that, I was thinking about the last time this happened. Pretty much the same as this time, isn't it? And it will be the next time.
All of this has happened before. All of this will happen again.
The fact is that many of these groups do this, and they're all the same. And of course, they're all different and unique. They're variations on a theme, but they're all vile and disgusting people when you see what they do. They are numerous, but they're unimportant. The Bigfoot circus is rife with them, and they're individually tailored mutual admiration societies, all with their favorite flavors of Bigfoot truth, Bigfoot sauce, if you will. Their fans, savoring the menu, feel protected and defended by the very same people who feed on them. I will examine this ecology more in the next essay, and after that I may look at the ways they misuse scientifical ideas. But today, there's something more important I want to attend to. When I grew up, mostly around the church my family attended, you would be told about the terrible costs of sin. Like most people who grew up in the influence of Christianity, I heard the word sin all the time. And like most of those people, it was never really actually well defined for me along the way. It was rather like the perception of what is art. It was one of those I know it when I see it sort of things. When I first learned the true meaning of the word sin, I had to suppress what really should have been a raucous round of laughter. I was driving at the time, and it would have been just a little dangerous. It was a radio program, and someone was talking about why nobody ever really tells you what the word sin actually means. Just that you feel bad about doing it, whatever you think that might be. You see, the word sin comes from the Hebrew language, of course, and it's an archery term for not hitting the bullseye of the target, for missing the mark. Metaphorically speaking, for not doing as well as you aspire to do. So indeed, it's true, we all sin, and we fail to do things as well as we aspire to do them. Searching for an illustration for you of how deliciously revelatory that was for me, I'm going to lean on watching the last few minutes of The Sixth Sense. Because once you see that ring roll out across the floor, once you realize how everything you've seen for the last 90 or so minutes has actually had a profoundly different meaning than you could have possibly imagined. In fairness, I should use the phrase willfully ignorant here. It would be kinder, and it would be more accurate, but it just doesn't roll off the tongue so smoothly. And to twist a little dagger at the raccoons of Bigfootery, and to paraphrase from the movie, I see dumb people. They're everywhere, and they don't even know they are dumb. Yeah, it's probably unnecessarily cruel, but couldn't help myself. It is one thing to be genuinely pursuing a goal and not as good at it as you want or like. It is something entirely different to be deliberately and maliciously attacking people with the most vile rhetoric in the defense of holding on to influence, over people who have been hoodwinked into thinking that you are such a kind and nice person. Well, metaphorically speaking, you sell pitchforks and torches in your live streams, and maybe literally in your merch store. Yet, as I will discuss in some detail in the next essay, this is simply the way of things. It is actually expected. The raccoons of the Bigfoot circus are the norm, not the exception, and if you step into their field of effluence, kind of things that we observe this month, have observed many times before, and will observe many times to come, are to be expected. It's the nature of the misguided. I don't give name to the bad guys. They're a dime a dozen, and you don't name the whack-a-moles. After all, you might get emotionally attached if you name them. It's nothing personal, but I just don't have time for those uninterested in genuinely bettering themselves. There are only a handful of social media channels that are sincerely trying to lean in the direction of genuine scientific thinking, and they all sin a bit from time to time. Yeah, I love that word. I'm not going to name them all, not even all the ones that I watch these days as time permits. But these are the people I expect to stay in the game for a long time and to retain their integrity. If you watch what these people are doing and exercise scientific thinking on your own, a little skeptical, a little rational, and a little objectivity, they will lead you to others who are interested in more reality-based examinations of Bigfoot. The objective truth is not a welcome thing in the Bigfoot circus. Bringing the application of investigation methods to the subject is, of course, the Squatch detective Mr. Culls. If you want to do better at investigating the subject, of being rational, of investigating with good proven methods and good proven approaches, observe what he is doing and be ready to chuckle from time to time at a little juvenile humor. With dedication to being a reference point to all those stories that are known to be just plain outright hoaxes. Not to be vindictive about it, but just to be able to shake your head and say, yeah, these were all just hoaxes. You have Nikki with Sasquatch Secrets, at least currently that's what it's called, who is fostering an interest in actually going out and finding out what's really happening out there for herself. These people will lead you to the people who are trying to be rational and skeptical and objective, trying to put a little reality into their Bigfoot recipes. I am the Curious Cryptid, and I hope that after the next essay, now in 3 parts because it covers so much material, you will understand more about the shape and the scale of the problems in the Bigfoot circus and why I just don't seem to fret about them all that much. My narrative has always been that the tools of genuine scientific thinking can provide you with powerful insights if you use them well. As always, if you're triggered by the things that I say, it's for you to examine why that may be of yourself. To learn is to discover new ideas. Some of those ideas reveal the flaws, the sins of our existing ideas. Sometimes we are strongly attached to those ideas and we feel attacked when they are challenged. In very real ways, our thoughts are our identities. Learning is to become someone different than who we are now. Sometimes it is frightening to abandon a cherished belief we have learned to be objectively untrue. I have no need to, nor even a passing interest in discrediting anyone. Even the raccoons of the Bigfoot circus. I have no need to plot to fool anyone into discrediting themselves, no need to trap people in logic. Now, they may feel sometimes that something I present exposes an aspect of themselves they don't want to recognize yet, or maybe that they don't want other people to recognize in them. If you do really feel that way, this is something that you are bringing to the party. To navigate this, you might familiarize yourself with the concepts of projection and deflection, and objectively examine those perceptions. What's more likely, of course, is that you'll get all mad, puff up your chest, walk off in a huff, and be mad at me, not even realizing that you're actually mad at yourself. People can feel attacked when they begin to realize that there may be flaws in some of their most cherished ideas. Those ideas that are their identity, flaws in their thinking, flaws in who they are. What they may become without these flaws, without these traumas, is unknown, and it's frightening, and they do lash out sometimes. So I do not seek to change people. I seek to help them learn and decide if they want to change themselves. Should they choose to walk away, that is sad. It does happen. It's unfortunate. And they're free to do so. And I begrudge nothing of those who make that decision. I seek to help people recognize for themselves what is objectively true by using the crucibles of scientific thinking, the methods of science, to burn away the deceptions, but only if they're interested in not being fleeced by those who would certainly take advantage of their credulity and gullibility. Then they can recognize for themselves, without any gatekeepers and without any truth-sayers, those who discredit themselves in the Bigfoot world every single day. They say there's a market for everything, and they also say that the market is always right. Broken logic could conclude that everything is always right. Wow, that sounds like parts of the Bigfoot circus, too. Anyway, I have a 3-part deep dive into that, and all I need now is the time to wrap it up and record it.